Opinion Mahadev, Malegaon, and India's final war against terror. The last week of July 2025 has seen three significant developments in the world of counter-terrorism. In Kashmir, the Indian Army neutralized three Pakistani terrorists, including Sulaiman Hashim Musa, the mastermind behind the Pahalgam attack. In a parallel development, a UNSC report explicitly stated that the TRF could not have executed the Pahalgam terror attack without support from Lev. The third and most sensitive development was the NIA court's acquittal of Col Purohit, Sadhvi Pragya, and Kulkarni in the Malegaon blast case, following years of torture, harassment, and humiliation in a fabricated, politically motivated, and botched-up investigation. In the past 4 decades, cross-border terrorism has been at the core of India's security challenges. It began with Khalistan and Kashmir terrorism in the late 70s. At that time, India, complacent about its superiority over Pakistan in conventional warfare, confronted terrorism in Punjab, Kashmir, and the Northeast. Over these 4 decades, India has faced the worst and most brutal forms of terrorism, including abductions, hijackings, massacres, minority killings, murders, IED attacks, suicide bombings, and 5/18 attacks. The horrors of Chhattisgarh, Nandi Marg, the Parliament attack, bomb blasts in Mumbai, Jaipur, Delhi, Bangalore, and Coimbatore, the 2611 Mumbai attacks, the Pulwama 5/18 attack, and the recent Pahalgam attack have bruised India's morale, communal harmony, and stability multiple times. However, India never succumbed to terrorists. It always demonstrated a firm resolve in its fight against terror, even when the West, preoccupied with the specter of communism, ignored the expansion of jihadism globally. Left without allies in 1990 after the Soviet Union's disintegration and a collapsing economy, India faced deadly terrorist movements in Kashmir, Punjab, and the Northeast. Pakistan, the primary supporter of cross-border terrorism in India, was favored by the West. In the 1980s, GHQ Rawalpindi carried out covert operations for the CIA-ISI veterans like Col Imam and Gen Hamid Gul trained Deobandi jihadists from Afghanistan and Pakistan for a prolonged proxy war in Afghanistan. In return, Washington provided Pakistan with billions of dollars in aid and military support, which Pakistan diverted to finance terrorist activities in JK. Fueled by drug money and US backing, Pakistan pursued nuclear ambitions. By the early 1990s, Pakistan was fast closing the nuclear gap with India. India was in a difficult position. With the rise of the Taliban, India lost Afghanistan, another key neighbor and ally strategically. Afghanistan's loss was a major setback to India's national security. Under the overarching Pakistani umbrella, the jihadist takeover of Pakistan led to the emergence of numerous terrorist groups, terror training camps, drug smuggling networks, infiltration routes, crime syndicates, and illegal weapons markets. Consequently, an array of transnational Deobandi and Wahhabi terror groups like Harkat-ul-Mujahideen, Harkat-ul-Ansar, Harkat-ul-Jihad al-Islami Hujai, Lashkar-Toiba, al-Badr, and Hizbul Mujahideen made Kashmir the epicenter of terrorist activities. After Pakistan's successful nuclear tests in 1998, its audacity knew no bounds, unleashing more lethal groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed. India's cautious, measured, moderate, and proportionate military response, combined with diplomatic efforts aimed at peaceful resolution, demonstrated patience and strategic restraint. India's restraint and patience stemmed from practical geopolitical considerations and moral and civilizational values, as reflected in the Ramayana and Mahabharata, where Lord Rama and Krishna sought peace until the very end, even at personal sacrifice. However, India faced the embarrassment of releasing Masood Azhar in exchange for freeing 150 passengers of IC-814. After a series of ISI-orchestrated bomb blasts in Mumbai, Jaipur, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Coimbatore, Hyderabad, and other cities, India was helpless. ISIS-covered capabilities emboldened indigenous jihadist groups like SIMI and IM, who developed close ties with them. Following the 2611 Mumbai attacks, the then government chose not to retaliate, leaving the average Indian feeling humiliated and betrayed. However, after Modi's rise to power, India broke the shackles and began regaining lost ground on national security. Modi started with a bang. India's surgical strike after the Uri 518 attack was the first signal of change, calling out Pakistan's nuclear bluff. But Pakistan refused to accept the change. After Burhan Wani's encounter death in 2016, ISI masterminds orchestrated widespread violent civil unrest in the Kashmir Valley, followed by a long spell of homegrown insurgency. In some areas of South Kashmir, the state's writ ceased to exist. However, India's massive crackdown soon forced the rioters and stone pelters to retreat. Following that, the central government's all-out operation against terrorists signaled Delhi's force posture with an unprecedented clarity. Modi's message was clear: guns, bombs, and bullets will be met with force, but those who wish to talk are welcome. NIA's massive crackdown on terror funding and the separatist ecosystem dealt a death blow to separatism and jihadism. For the first time, the Indian government responded with a holistic, bold, and courageous approach, not only against gun-toting terrorists but also against internal subversionists who weakened India's foundations from within as journalists, academics, administrators, engineers, etc. Once again, Pakistan responded with the deadly 518 attack in Pulwama, killing 40 Indian soldiers. For the first time, Indian fighter jets flew deep inside Pakistani territory and retaliated with air strikes on Balakot, neutralizing 300 Jaish terrorists. The message was clear: India will not succumb to nuclear blackmail and will hit hard inside enemy territory. Continuing its fight against terror, India abrogated Article 370 in 2019, a historic move that still amazes us. Ordinary citizens had lost faith in the Indian state's ability to carry out such a measure until Modi removed it. After the Kashmir move, New Delhi invested heavily in development and tourism in Kashmir. Although grievances and grudges about abrogating Article 370 persisted and intensified due to bureaucratic apathy, Kashmir began to change. The youth had new expectations. However, Pakistan refused to relent and changed its strategy. It created an array of proxy terror groups with secular-sounding names like TRF, PAF, and Kashmir Tigers, so that India would not have a legitimate reason to blame Pakistan after future terror attacks, as its conventional groups like LET and Jaish were overexposed. Meanwhile, the NIA continued its drive against terror financing, recruitment, and internal subversion. Allegedly, Indian agencies neutralized many terrorist commanders wanted for attacks in India through unknown gunmen in Pakistan. Simultaneously, the Pakistan army suffered reverses from Baloch separatists and the Islamist TTP. Pakistan made a terror comeback in 2025 with the brutal Pahalgam attack, killing 26 tourists for their religious identity. This time, India launched Operation Sindoor at a scale much higher than the Balakot air strikes and Uri surgical strikes. India destroyed 9 terror camps in Pakistan, rained BrahMos missiles, destroyed Pakistan's air defenses, and rendered it vulnerable to full-scale invasion with ground troops. In a daring and unconventional move, India attacked the Nurkan air base, reportedly a storehouse of Pakistani nuclear assets. An Indian missile attack on its entrance killed 300 people, including soldiers and scientists, inside the underground silo. Initially, India responded moderately, destroying only terror camps. However, Pakistan opened the front along the entire western border with India. Turkish drones, Chinese missiles, and air defenses proved ineffective against Indian might. Momentarily, it seemed India was on its way to conquer Pak and move ground forces. However, the attack on the Nurkan base alarmed Pakistan and its allies in Washington, D.C., leading to an unexpected ceasefire. Today, India's official policy states that an act of terror will be regarded as an act of war. Gone are the days when India quietly tolerated cross-border terrorism. This is the era of Garmi Gus K. Marriage. Reflecting on India's counter-terrorism journey, detailed above, evokes an emotional response among nationalist Indians. With Operation Mahadev, the killers face justice, and the victims receive their due. India emerges strong, confident, and capable of protecting its citizens and inflicting severe punishment on terror sponsors. There was a time when Israel set the benchmarks in counter-terrorism. Today, when unknown gunmen kill jihadist commanders in Pakistan and Khalistani extremists in Canada, it instills a sense of pride doing better than the role model. Furthermore, the UNSC Monitoring Committee's mention of TRF and its relationship with LET is a significant diplomatic victory for India. Post-2014, India leads the world in counter-terrorism, whether through diplomacy, kinetic operations, or propaganda. After 2019, India's diplomatic heft enabled it to silence many countries, rendering Pakistan's propaganda war ineffective. Today, when the UNSC mentions the unholy nexus between Pakistan's LET and TRF, it brings shame to Pakistan. Compare this to the days when India's complaints in global multilateral bodies fell on deaf ears. Finally, the acquittal of falsely accused individuals in the Malegaon blast case delivers a crushing blow to internal subversives. It is hard to believe there was a time when the state targeted innocent Hindus, tortured distinguished soldiers, humiliated holy monks, and falsely accused them of terrorism. The state machinery was infiltrated by Islamists and pro-Pakistan elements, with Bollywood working for the underworld mafia in Pakistan, aiding jihadists. Politicians contested elections with fake currency printed in Pakistan, and liberal intellectuals and academics attended conferences and parties of jihadi extremists and ISI spies like FAI in the US. Over the last 14 years, the state has changed dramatically. Today, anyone defending Rohingya settlers and jihadists in the name of human rights finds little support across the ideological spectrum. Even opposition parties must think twice before undertaking such a suicidal venture. Swipe left for next video. As we move forward, it is clear that any future Pahalgam-like terror attack will likely lead to significant cartographic changes in South Asia. However, beyond Kashmir, India faces a major war against jihadism in its hinterland. Due to polarist social and political discourse, bitter communal tensions, widespread jihadist activities, and Muslim radicalization, every city sits on a ticking time bomb. Any spark could ignite major civil unrest and communal rioting. India's intelligence and kinetic capabilities require a massive overhaul and upgrade. Sooner or later, we must confront the jihadist juggernaut, which is comprehensive and multifaceted. Additionally, the state must consider its covert links with Pakistan and Bangladesh-based jihadist entities and global jihadist organizations. Before the jihadist machinery makes a final effort to transform India into an Islamist nation by 2047, as the PFI document stated, the state must act systematically, long-term, and determinately. The author is a policy analyst specializing in counter-terrorism, Indian foreign policy and Afghanistan-Pakistan geopolitics. He has done his PhD on Jaish-e Mohammed. Views expressed in the above piece are personal and solely those of the author. They do not necessarily reflect News 18's views. Latest blogs.